Hey, I'm Mike Stroud here at Morganton Live. Upstairs at the Grind Cafe, Henry, one of the co-owners, let us set up here, and I'm here with Talmadge Stephanides. And give us your story, Tal.
Yeah, so as Mike said, my name is Talmadge Stephanides. I work for Norville Properties. We're a commercial developer based in Morganton, but we work kind of throughout the Carolinas. And so for us, a lot of the downtown buildings and areas surrounding the downtown we've been involved in one matter or another. My family was born and raised here. I've got about three generations worth of Burke County folk. And I was born here and went up to Asheville for a few years, and then ended up coming back here after college. So it was something I didn't expect initially when I was young growing up here, but I'm so happy to be back, and the growth and changes of Morganton have been a great thing, I think, for this area. Lack of better words.
Yeah. Well, you hit it on the head from the start as far as just once you've been somewhere. I remember you talking about Honduras. We was in Dominican, and we went to get ice cream, and we're sitting there, waiting to get ice cream, which I got excellent ice cream, and so, but there was these kids everywhere, and they were like pulling on your pants leg and stuff like that, and just begging for people for money for ice cream.
Right.
A kid and ice cream. I mean,
right.
That's a
how do you not?
Yeah, how do you not? But I can remember this one kid. This people everywhere, but they threw their ice cream down, because the street they littered like nothing, and so. But I remember this kid, man, he was just like he zipped over to that half-eaten ice cream sitting there in the gutter, picked it up and stayed like he would just walked out of the store with,
he won the lottery.
Yeah. You dropped your ice cream. I always think about Eddie Murphy when I think of it. You dropped your ice cream, so, but when you go to other places and you realize, how blessed we really are.
Right.
Sidewalks and everything else.
Right. Water.
That's the... We're so fortunate. I remember when Hurricane Hugo came through years ago, and it came up from from Charleston. It came into Charlotte more,
right?
And all the trees, and then we were out. People were ready to kill each other for bags of ice. And when you don't have water, people will go crazy. And we haven't had no tragedy around us. To realize how good we really do have it. We're soft.
Yep.
And that cycle has come around to soft, and so it wouldn't be hard to whoop our butt.
No,
in a lot of different ways.
And the sad thing is, it might be the very best thing for us.
Well, the world cycles like that, and I think that's I don't think any generation gets out of hurt and pain in warfare. It's we're not going to get into religious things, but the warfare is going to be at the heart of man, because we don't want to give nothing. We don't want to we don't want to come together,
right?
And so anyway, now we were talking about your generation,
right?
I'm thinking TV. I love those kind of things, and our generation does sit around and watch TV, and television's got a big influence. But you're talking about, you're a little bit different than most, as far as Instagram, social media, and stuff like that. That's the way this generation runs with things.
Most definitely.
So and I'm at my generation, they have a hard time figuring that out a lot of times.
Right.
But that's the way the world moves now.
It is, and it's moving that direction. Whether that's good or bad, who knows? But I think that I don't know if you can even tie it together, but to me, it's very noticeatible in my life because, like with my parents, we didn't have TV growing up.
Right.
They built their house here 2 years ago. That was the first house that has TV in it.
Right.
So for us growing up, my childhood was outside.
Right.
And my dad, when we were young, it was, now you're old enough, you get a job. I don't care what you do. And even one year I kind of put my foot down saying I didn't want to work. He said, that's fine, then go volunteer.
Yeah.
And, so I volunteered at the Manna Food Bank for an entire summer.
Right.
And that was that mentality that they had instilled in us, and I think was instilled in their generation, your generation, and the generations before, is, you know, nothing is given.
Right.
You know, you work for it.
Yeah.
And what you want in your life is determined by how hard you work for it.
Right.
And so I think that line is what is becoming less and less apparent, and I think some of that ties into parents nowadays, the struggles that they went through. Their mentality is, I don't want my kids to do that. I don't want my kids to have to go through that. But I think that by the parents going through that created the individuals that they are today.
Right.
And if that individual, those people are what they want their children to strive for, then the children have to go through those experiences. Sure. So I think that, you know, it's almost this mentality of, you know, well, I struggled, so my kid shouldn't have to. And there are stuff that your kid probably won't ever have to go through that you went through.
Right.
But those struggles are what create, you know, the people you want in society, male and female. Those struggles are important, and
right.
I think they create and help mold, you know, strong individuals for society.
Right.
And I'm blessed to have experienced the stuff that I did growing up. And, you know, my parents were very hands-on.
Right.
And they wanted us to experience things, and they wanted us to struggle and go through challenges. And by doing that, it helped, I think, establish, you know, a confidence in me and self-assurance.
Yeah.
And I think going back into that social media side, to me, I almost think it's a benefit I never got into it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my friends is like, you know, or their emotions are driven off of the social media impact.
Right.
And, you know, I've got thousands of photos on my phone. I don't post them anywhere.
Right.
You know, but I'll share them with friends. I'll share them with immediate.
Right.
And that, you know, that is what, to me, that is what the images are for. It's you. How does that photo make you feel? And
right.
if you're waiting for your emotions on the photo
Sure.
based on the thousands of people that you have no contact with other than digitally,
right,
then you're gonna be deriving your self-worth
right
from infinity, from really nothingness.
Now, see, I'm totally the opposite, you know. So
right.
TV is, you know, I've been stuck in front of the TV since I can remember, you know. Now, you know, I think that's one of the biggest problems, I think, Tal, more than anything else in our society, first of all, is fatherless homes. Right. You know, we know that's a thing, and, you know, or mentors or somebody that can come along and help men and women and all that. You know, you got to have that structure in home, and you're fortunate to have those. And I'm fortunate that, you know, I did have structure in my home. You know, my mom had such a problem out of my brother. You know, she kept me, you know, in church and stuff like that. So I had that perspective. But my daddy was a honky tonker. You know, so, you know, I was always, my childhood was not go outside and play, which we did that all the time.
Right.
We had a great neighborhood, but, you know, a lot of times mine was Michael Hugh, go in there and get your daddy out of the beer joint. So, you know, that's right. You know, that's the demographic I come up in.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, those structures, watching television and things like that, everything now is so media. I can remember when my friend first started using a cell phone in a restaurant. It rang in a restaurant, and, you know, I'm a pretty liberal guy. I'm a conservative but liberal guy, but, you know, I can remember it's just like a gasp in the whole restaurant, like, put your phone down. The audacity of somebody answering a phone in a restaurant. You know, so old Tim Carter, that was a funny moment at Applebee's, your friendly neighborhood store. But, you know, things like that now, our society is not, a lot of times not, you know, they're just constantly in the phones.
Right.
You know, and I'm like that. You know, I'm a media guy, and it's the way people do business now. Like you said, you're more business kind of things and things like that. But people, they like to be entertained,
right?
And we're overly entertained, I think, a lot of times as far as our work ethics and
right. And that's what, to me, that's just gone out the window.
Yeah.
And you know, to tie into what we were talking about earlier, restaurant work. I worked, you know, one of the jobs, I wanted a new job every summer. I didn't want to do the same thing. So I had a great experience kind of in all manner of aspects work-wise. I mean, I did hard manual labor working for a paving company, sealing driveways and striping parking lots and all that. And I learned very quickly I did not want to do that for the rest of my life.
That blacktop works too.
Yes, it does. It's rough. And I worked a movie theater. I worked in restaurants. Yeah. And to me, the biggest thing about restaurants is, very few restaurants are top performers,
right?
Where the money that is made on the restaurants, where it is you can set yourself up well doing that. Restaurant work is tough.
I know, man.
And I think that is somewhat skewed now, especially with after COVID and a lot of restaurants moving to just takeout and whatnot. But margins on restaurants are so tight.
Yeah.
And so wait staff, yes, their salary, for lack of better words, is low.
Right.
But I made some very, very good money waiting tables.
Yeah.
And
what comes down to being in service.
Right.
You rate it on service, so
exactly.
to speak. If you're a servant,
yep.
And I've worked in the restaurant industry, and I feel like I'm, to be the best, you got to be a servant of everybody.
Right.
And that's always,
right.
If you got that mentality, and you got personality to engage people.
Exactly.
They're gonna
right, and you're gonna have. I mean, you always have the bad, and you'll always have the good, and you'll always have the middle. And it doesn't matter how well you do your job. Somebody's not gonna be happy with it. Somebody's going to voice their opinion, and it might not even be your fault.
Right.
They're just taking out. My grandfather, my dad's father. He told me this when I was real little. And it's always stuck with me. But for tipping, he said, I always tip more the worst service I had.
Yeah.
And he believed that they were clearly going through something.
Sure.
And that is why they might not have been as attentive, or that might have been why they were short. And he was a great man and had done well for himself. And so he's like, the $5 more, he's like, that is not going to change my life, but it could change theirs.
Yeah, exactly.
And that has been very, I guess, has really stuck out to me in the fact that everybody's got life.
Right.
Everybody's going through whatever it is, and it comes back to what's relative. A struggle that I'm going through versus a struggle that you're going through. Either of our struggles are not better or worse, but what I'm dealing with personally and what you're dealing with personally, that's something that I can't quantify. And I can't tell you, well, that's nothing. Don't worry about, that's nothing. Listen to what I'm going through. It's that back and forth of wanting better or worse, and going back to that immediate gratification of the nicest stuff. It's like, that's all well and good, but what is that, how is that affecting you?
Right.
And what is that doing to you? And if you're deriving your worth from it,
right,
then you're in a never-ending boat. I mean, you're always going to be having to work and having to drive to keep going for something, because that's what you're deriving your worth from, versus having your own self-worth, knowing that you are enough and you are important. And to me, that comes back to society, and if you're comfortable and confident with who you are, that is shown in your actions, and those actions are what make a good society.
Right.
A strong society is people working and doing stuff for others, because they're not trying to do it for the attention. The instrument, I'm giving a homeless man $20, like, let me film it. It's like that you're not achieving anything.
Right.
Versus if you sat down and taught with that I said homeless man, you sit down and taught with that man, you might give him more than the $20 ever would if you just sat and taught with him.
Right. Yeah.
And you don't socialize it, you don't put it out there.
Sure.
It's that is what, right. And I think that is what fosters a good society, and makes that want to come. And I think Morganton's done a very good job on that, in the fact of, we are a very welcoming community.
Yeah.
And there are people that have been here for a year, and they're like, it's amazing. I know these so many people reached out. my grandmother, she moved to Grace Ridge a little while ago, and I remember she was talking about going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
She's like, it's funny. It's nice because everyone says hey to me, but sometimes I just want to walk through the store and get my things and walk out. But everybody, how are you doing today? Or it's good. It's just like, I don't want to talk with anybody right now.
I know.
And it's, unfortunately, that's not a common thing.
Yeah.
And I think Morganton's done a very good job at opening that up and welcoming, welcoming anybody and everybody that's come here.
Yeah. Well, that's what we got to have. We've got one of the best communities, and that's what we're trying to do is build our community with the people, from different demographics,
Right.
And there's a lot of people coming in. There's a lot of people that are adventurous. We've got the Linville Gorge. We got Grandfather Mountain. We got
Right.
we got all these things right here in our backyard. We're looking at them.
Right.
And we got the history of Morganton and the historic Burke Foundation, all those different things, the courthouse, the Over the Mountain Men, all
Right.
those things, history, things that a lot of times we overlook as young people, or not me as young anymore, but you think about how to build on those things and what those people did to get us to this point.
Right.
And the sacrifices and they went through some things, and and to build on our city and to make it alive. To me, that's where it's got to start. It's got to be welcoming to everybody,
Right.
And it's got to be good for everybody and
Right.
friendly for everybody.
Which is hard to achieve,
Yeah.
and that's going to be probably the, I guess, most difficult part is figuring out what is the best for the majority.
Right.
Because going back to just waiting at a restaurant, you're always going to have a negative. You're always going to have somebody that disagrees. But to me, that's what's important.
Right.
Like your example, like my childhood versus your childhood.
Sure.
Very different.
Yeah.
But I think that those opposites are what connect us.
Exactly.
And that's what helps foster the different opinions. And I think, not to go back to the beginning, the forefathers of the country, the objective was not to have everyone agree,
Right.
but to have all opinions heard.
Sure.
And finding the meeting of the middle.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's Democrat and Republic. It's like, it wasn't meant to be a one side or the other. You're right and I'm wrong, or vice versa. It was your ideas and my ideas. All right, well, I don't agree with all of them,
Right.
but okay, I can see why you do that, and
Right.
vice versa for my, the other side's ideas, and coming together to benefit
Sure.
the greater good. And I think that's what this is doing, and I think that's what Morganton's doing is engaging with the citizens,
Yeah.
and engaging with the people in town, and saying, what is it that you want? What is
Right.
the movie theater that
Right.
was done? That was led by the city reaching out.
Right.
What do we need? What is a draw? And
Right.
having a movie theater downtown was
Yeah.
not normal,
Right.
but was something that would break that up, would
Right.
create that drive to come to town. And when that theater first opened up, it outperformed
Yeah.
any of their projections.
Yeah.
And it's that meeting of the minds of, do we put in a I'll date it. Do
Bingo
we put
hall.
in a bingo hall or a dance hall, or do we put in a movie theater?
Yeah.
Well, the movie theater was the attraction for the younger.
Right.
And that's what every town, city, civilization needs is yes, that drive to keep going, that drive for change and adaptation, but at the same time, working for the majority,
Right.
not the minority.
Right.
And that's that's the delicate balance of all of this.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I'm excited about more than anything is seeing all the venues around town, all the places, seeing all the. It seems like every town I ride through, there's building going on, and it just seems like but there needs to be something a little bit more. It's like the first time you ever had a radio in your car, and you had a first time you had an amplifier put with it.
Yeah.
I remember that very well back in high school, and I had an old dinky radio, but my friend had he had all the Jensen speakers in the back and Pioneer and amplifier, and he turned the button on. And that music just went, and it filled up the whole car, and I couldn't believe it.
Yep.
And I think that's the way it is in every community. There's people there waiting to come alive, and they just need some things.
A little amperage.
Little amperage, somebody to open up some of the other things and show what all's available here.
Right.
And what we can build together.
Right.
And those kind of things. So that's and make it a community that is set apart.
For sure.
That's what I see, and all those things. Let's turn the curve a little bit. Let's talk about pickleball.
All right.
Okay. Now you like playing pickleball.
Yep.
Now I got introduced into it from racquetball. Yep. And your dad, we've played, but pickleball is a whole different thing now that's going around the country. Yep. We know that. We don't even have to talk about it. People already know that. Now, what do you see in that regard as far as playing?
As far as coming, being more popular in Morganton, or I do. I think it's definitely coming by storm. The group that we play with has grown in numbers, and I feel like every month there's a few new people.
Yeah.
So I do think that it is growing, and I think it's a great sport, especially for this area. Yeah. The amount of homes that have tennis courts in the back. In Morganton is, I've never dove into it, and I've never researched other towns, but I feel like a lot of these older homes have had tennis courts.
Right.
And so, to me, that means, all right, there's a lot of racket sport enthusiasts in the area from a long time ago. And so I think that drive is going to keep going and growing. I think the most difficult part, as far as municipalities go, is budgeting is so far out.
Yeah.
Where you budget almost 2 years before you start. Right. And so I think for us as Morganton in and of itself, I think that is going to be tough. I think everyone can agree, it'd be great. Let's put up 5 pickleball courts, but having the money, the means, the finances to do all that, everybody wants it, but that doesn't mean it can happen.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be the most difficult part of this is, waiting and budgeting priority versus necessity and all of that.
Right.
But I think private citizens coming together and doing something has been very effective in this town. I think a lot of parks and a lot of public places were headed up, for lack of better words, by private funding or private citizens coming together and have a meeting of the mind. So whether it's pickleball courts or water parks or public, whatever, if you get a meeting of the minds and anything's possible. Right. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You just have that drive and that foresight, and having the people that see that vision with you.
Right.
And I think that is that's how every city grows.
Sure. Exactly. That community revolving around that and something common. And a lot of people come here. They love that.
Right.
They love like Andres and Nuri.
Yeah.
There's so many people here in town locally, and everybody. That's the one thing I love about Morganton. Everywhere I walk around, it's just nice to know everybody.
Right. You're gonna see somebody.
You're gonna see somebody and and it's wonderful to see that. But just all those different people that have moved here, and they just love Morganton. They love the quaintness of it and all those things. But yet at the same time, we see all these things starting to grow.
Right.
And we want to help that. We want to be innovative.
Right.
We want to have those things that are in place that makes Morganton a real inviting community and a place with a lot of things to go and places to see.
Yeah, and I think we're heading in that right direction. I think that there are changes that have been made that are encouraging that, and I think there are going to be changes in the future that continue to help that growth happen.
Right.
You know, you mentioned the courthouse and that square. I mean, that was a big project, and you know, to be honest, I wasn't totally sure about it. And you know, afterwards though, I mean, it really is. It's a great space. It was a great use of that space, and you know, I think it really encourages that community activism and growth, and you know, TGIF. I mean, I remember growing up going to those things, and you know, back then I remember me and my brother and sister would walk from our house and come downtown on Friday, and you know, my parents might come or they might not, but that the community, everybody, everyone went. So there wasn't a concern, I guess, back then, and I think we're getting back to that.
I think so. I think it's cycling back around.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I think a lot of kids should walk to school. I think that makes a big difference. Uphill both ways, uphill both ways in the snow. Yeah, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think that you grow an appreciation for your area and for your surroundings, and it's easy to not recognize it or not appreciate it when you're either looking down at your phone or you're driving 40 miles an hour past it. It's just
see, I don't want to be like that. See, now I'm from Rock Hill, South Carolina originally, and we always went to the beach. You know, I had an uncle that lived on James Island, so we was in Charleston all the time, and then Myrtle Beach growing up. So I didn't realize how close the mountains were. To a cousin of mine brought me up here. I was doing business with him, and you know, coming out of Charlotte, I just, you know, even coming up into Hickory, I couldn't believe, I was amazed
never just
by
made it
the
that
mountains.
much further.
Yeah, you know, I was, you know, stayed right there around Charlotte, but I just didn't realize how close the mountains were. And we just never went. My mom, she loved laying out in the sun, so she was she sunbathed like crazy.
Right.
But you know, me looking at those things and coming up here, I've always been amazed by Morganton, and I still to this day just drive around, and I am in awe of how beautiful it is, and how to build on that. And so since I've moved here, married a girl up here, moved here, I've never gone back, and I still got to get my feet in the sand, you know, in the beach. I go crazy if I don't do that, but I just love it here, and I want to see all the things that we can do here. That's been already established. I'm excited about the Historic Burke Foundation and working with the courthouse, and Arlen is helping do those things, and all the things that we're trying to come together to do to make people more aware, the next generation more aware, in video and backstories and businesses here in town, and just getting to know people. You know, that's just walking the streets here. I've walked in the businesses, and once you know the business owner, or, you know, it's just a lovely thing, you know, to promote one another, network with one another, and build something good together.
And that goes back to, I think, to that you know, self-assurance. When you walk down the street, or you walk into a business, and someone says, "Hey, Mike," or "Hey, Tal," I mean, that makes you feel important. It makes you feel valued, and just having that recognition. You know, yes, you can get that in any major city. I mean, if you work at it and you go out there, but the small town, you know, I think just helps, you know, foster that, and really creates those connections. And you know, for you, it's like I could reach out and say, "Hey, I need somebody to do X, Y, or Z." It's like you're going to either know somebody, or you're going to know somebody that knows somebody, and that kind of connection, that kind of networking and communication is so important. I think
that's the foundation.
Yeah.